everyone. This is Peeyush Agrawal. Welcome to the Education Planning Podcast with Peeyush Agrawal. Just a quick introduction about me. I'm a techie by sort of education and have got experience of more than 2 decades in the corporate world covering various industries. And post that, I was being fascinated with the various sectors outside the corporate world, was part of the Atal Innovation Mission as a startup mentor, have joined as a guest faculty with BITS Pilani, and that's where I basically realized that probably I can leverage all my expertise towards making a larger impact. And what other domain apart from education where this could happen? And that's where I started my venture Invest for Edu in the education and the financial planning space, which is towards ensuring that the kids reaches to their potential, as well as the parents can get to the proper financial planning so that they don't have to have a huge burden during their retirement to take care of the education for their kids. So with this as a context, since this is something that we would like to do for the larger impact, getting a right sort of insights from the people is the most important factor, and that was the sort of basis of creating this whole podcast, where we are not going to talk about a perfect recipe, or we are not going to talk about sort of a defined structure that's how kids' journey needs to be planned. It is more about learning from individual, actual, real stories from the parents about what challenges that they have faced, what is something that they have done, what worked out, what didn't work out, and see how we can basically learn out of those journeys to see how we can help the next generation towards getting it into the right shape, as well as contribute towards the Viksit Bharat mission that we all aspire for. So with that as a context again, I'm very happy to introduce the person and the guest for today's, Arpit Tiwari. So welcome Arpit to sort of taking out time and then spending time with us. To set a bit background for Arpit, so he, from an education planning perspective, we basically look forward to that if a person is coming from a well background, is very educated and have got financial stability, everything should look rosy to them. And that's what is something that we would like to explore today, because Arpit is coming from a tier 1 city, Hyderabad. Both the parents, like Arpit and his wife, are chartered accountant, so financially capable, knowledgeable. He has got 2 kids, the elder one, a boy who is in 10th class, at a very crucial juncture for his life, where he will be moving more towards sort of competitive exams or the next set of careers and all. And the younger girl, she's in 6th class. So it's like a perfect use case for all of us to sort of understand what Arpit and his family has gone through in terms of shaping up the education planning for their kids. So with that, probably I would like to sort of start with Arpit to know a bit more about your family background, your upbringing, about how it was happening in your family, how does your journey shapes up?
Okay, first of all, thank you, Peeyush, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be part of this podcast and sharing my journey, my views around it. So, I started, my native is from a small town, Baitul, from Madhya Pradesh, and my dad worked as a education department officer. So that point of time, or on those years of 1980, 1990, there was not much thought of careers. It's very, very simple that either you go for engineering or you go for MBBS. But then parents don't even know what is the cost involved around it, what should we do. So for me, it was something like I have to take all my decisions. So I left my hometown at the age of 15, 16 after 10th grade. Went to Nagpur, checked for different colleges. Then my maths was good, so the obvious choice was engineering. But then there were certain challenges around all pricing and all those things. Then finally decided to land up into commerce area and then took up chartered accountant as a profession. And that's how I planned my journey. So it is more of an accident rather than something which is well planned. But I'm happy about the whole journey. Happy to clear all my examination much faster. So yeah, that's about me. But it is like something which we have to pursue on our own. There is nobody to guide as such. Parents definitely wants to have a good career, but then they don't have the idea. They can only support whatever ways they can.
Okay. So before we sort of get into the specific education planning and all, one aspect that we always look forward to in terms of having a right bonding with the kids. Okay. So what is something that has worked in your sort of family, which
Okay.
you feel has helped in terms of having that right bond with the kids, so that you can talk more openly, work more openly with them, and shaping up where they would like to basically get to?
Yeah, I mean that's very important because I mean that creates a relationship, correct, where you are very much open to talk all those. So one thing I realized over a period of time, and that could be a blessing for me because when I was 28, my son was born, and he's now 15 years. So we both started playing. We identified badminton as a sport, and later on lawn tennis. So we spent a lot of time in his training. I used to play with him. Currently, also I'm playing with him. I take him to the tournament, so that gives me a lot of opportunity where I can spend time with him. I can go and discuss with him the real time problems, because in sports you will, it's a mini life as such. So where you see challenges, where you win, you lose, how you address the challenges thrown by your opponent. There are a bit of politics also involved, how the kid feels on that ground, and then how to take the losses. So there is a lot of discussion about life which happens there, and I am the most, or I will the nearest companion for him for that. So that allows me that he can come to me, openly talk about it, and it's a lot of learning for me as well. So it opens up for me, and that is one of the biggest thing I feel, because otherwise, if we kids play on their own, then you are not getting a time to spend with them. They come, study, play, and then only maybe at lunch table sometime, and then so that is where I feel the biggest difference.
It's a very interesting point in terms of like how much time a parent is spending with the kid, and how does the age factor comes into picture. That's a very interesting perspective about the bonding between the parents and the kids. So before again moving forward to the next part of that, if you need to basically look at or gauge whether how much of influence their education planning is there compared to your experience versus what you have learned over the period, which you have basically got it at like a secondary research when they get into that education planning. So if you need to look at your upbringing mixture and the knowledge that you have gained specifically for their education planning, do you see there's a tilt towards one or the other, or it is something which is just a mixture?
I mean, there is a lot of difference, correct? So, just to give you an example, when I started looking for a first grade school for him, uh, we went for 20 to 21 schools as such, identifying, whether it has a sports facility, whether there is an opportunity for a holistic development, and at our times it was what is the nearest school, just go and take the admission. So there's a lot of thought process nowadays parents take around it, because over a period of time, people coming from a small town, settling down in a place like Hyderabad, they understand the importance of those small things, that build the character. So there's a lot of involvement. At times, I think it's over involvement also. But yeah, there's a lot of involvement right from start, from schools till what teacher is talking to you, where your challenges are, how is your seniors treating you. So, but good part is now there's a more conversation between parent and child, rather than our days where it is like very less discussions as such. So yeah, I mean there's a lot of difference as such when I compare with what we had those, and that was the norm that time.
So it is really good to sort of see the perspective of how our sort of early childhood or the background or the our upbringing affects in the manner how we are basically passing it on to the next generation. So on that note, Arpit, like I mean, you did talk about that the elder son, he's in 10th class, and he's at that, I would say, the most important juncture where he needs to choose the career and the path and the preparation for that. So how does that journey is there, and which stream he is looking forward to, and how did he move towards that stream? Was it something which is more based on your experience and all that you have asked him to choose that, or was it sort of his interest, or was it influenced? How do you see he chooses what he chose, and after that you are helping him to sort of get to a direction for that?
Okay, so for us, it came out obvious, that we both are chartered accountants. So we said, I mean, why don't you try a career in finance? But right from a very early age, and I think this is with boys that they are very fascinated with automobile. So he has a passion for automobile industry and mainly the machines around it. and he likes, the standard, our times, maths is something, physics is good, chemistry still is facing challenges, but that is where he wants to go. So it was an obvious choice, but at the same time, what happens is, in my conversation with him, I told him that don't restrict yourself to an automobile, because kids, whatever, it's like a database. Whatever you see, that is the maximum and from there you try taking decisions around it.
True.
So what I told him is, at this point of time, you understood that you want to learn more around machines, you like automobile, but keep yourself open, don't restrict. And at this point of time, your focus should be your physics, chemistry, maths. And how does those theories or those practicals impact the real world problems? So focus on that, and once your database increases with the exposure you will have in your 11th, 12th, more with your peers, and then later point of time, as and when you keep understanding, maybe you will go for something else. So yeah, that's how he choose to go toward the going preparing for IIT.
So how difficult, or let's say how challenging it was for both of you? You came from a background which is financial, and CA is a very decorated degree. It's not something which is like a mediocre degree. So from that, helping your kid towards a career which is very different than both of you have chosen. So how difficult it was for you to accept as a parent that the kid is doing something different than what you are having, where you will be having a huge leverage to support his success because both of you are CAs. And then you can basically, if the kid chooses something in the financial background, you have immense connect with which you can help the kid to get to, and which is a normal choice for every parent. So when you did that switch, was it too difficult for you as a parent to support that switch from financial to engineering?
I would not say that it was difficult, but definitely, something which we are pursuing, we have the experience, we can add value. You know, I mean, we thought we could be a teacher for him for everything, if he chooses the finance side of it. But then ultimately, he is very clear. So I don't want to push him for something which he doesn't like. The philosophy which, or I mean, most of the corporate world we spoke about, we have been trained, is that, think for some career where your things you like to do, where is your skill set, and whether the market accepts it. The subset of that should be the one which will make you successful. So if I take away that the things which he likes, then there is a bigger problem. So whatever we learn in corporate world will be a problem. So that is something which struck me and then convinced me and my wife that engineering is a good area. There's nothing wrong about it, and if he's interested, then let him pursue. Maybe there are external, with the reach, we can go with some expert. We have already reaching out to experts, talk to them, get the inputs around it, how should he pursue, where he has to take care of it. But yeah, ultimately it has to make sense for him, where he can add value. Unless unnecessary, we should not push him something. So that made us realize that, okay, no, let him go with whatever. Because in fact, at some stage he wanted to pursue sports as a career. Correct. But then we spoke openly with him as a challenge that, we are okay, if you want to pursue sports as a career, but you have to be very clear about the outcomes. If you are successful, well and good, and the probability of that. If you are not going to the top 2-3 players in India, because he wanted to pursue badminton as a professional sport, so we said, I'm absolutely fine. We are absolutely fine with that. But if it doesn't happen, are you okay with a life of a coach? And you are going for trainings. What is the that? And are you okay with that? So he took a conscious decision that, okay, that is because he has a secondary area where he has a love for machines. So he said, no, I will take this one as such. And so he took a conscious call. It took us, I would say, 6 months of lot of brainstorming. We used to sit together, discuss about it, gone through the career of different people as such, and that's where he realized that where it makes sense for him and where he wants to go for it.
So it is very insightful, Arpit, the way you have segregated that. that in terms of his likes, in terms of his interests, in terms of where the industry is moving, in terms of where his strengths lies and all of those things and all. And based on that, having those sort of open conversations with the kid and then help him to sort of decide something. How much preparation that you think you have to do to basically get to that context, okay? And second is, let's say if you need to pass on that as a message to the parents, okay, who are in a sort of a similar age group kids, what do you suggest to them in terms of getting to that? Because that is something which is not common for parents to gain that insights and have that open sort of conversation which is more purpose driven rather than emotional driven.
It's a very complex topic. One thing which we need to remember, and it took us some time, is that we are also students. Being parent, you will not know everything. So parenting is something which you try and then see, okay, there's a problem, okay, correct your action. And slowly I started realizing that it's like whatever you are doing, he's observing. So your act also should reflect what you want out of him. So there are multiple things, and you know that right now we have ample of information, correct? So you go and then check about parenting tips. Then so it's just a learning process. Frankly, there's no single formula, and every kid is different. So you keep applying and learn over a period. Sometimes you fail, sometimes you be successful. So it's more of a learning, I would say, and we are still learning. Correct. We don't know what lies in the future. Every parent wants best for his kid, but then do we know what needs to be done? No, we're still learning.
That's a very profound thing. Like, I mean, we take a lot of things for granted that our parents have done for us, and when we become parents, some of these things comes naturally to us, where we go out of turn, look for new areas, understand things, and then see what is something which comes out best for our kids. So it's amazing how some of these things from a human nature comes on us all of a sudden when it comes to our kids.
Yeah.
So, sort of piggyback on one of your previous point, Arpit, where you were talking about the sports part, and this is one very common thing that is there, where the kids are good in sports, they want to pursue it. So the way you have beautifully put it up, where you have put it up things onto the table for the kids about the possibilities, pros and cons, and then let the kid decide. When the kid has basically decided to move more towards, let's say, the education side and all, was it something which was emotionally very difficult for him to accept and move on? And what is something as a parent that you have done at that time to help him to overcome that?
So definitely it was difficult decision for all of us. As I said, it took us 6 months. Though the thought process was from a very long time what we need to do as such, but it took us a serious 6 months discussion. What helped is because I was always there in sports along with him. So those conversations keep happening. He can vouch that I have an idea. At times, kids have a problem that okay, my parent doesn't understand. They don't know this area, but correct, and then try to put all the facts clearly. So it was like it's a joint decision. We can only guide or we can put the data in a much better way with our experience, but ultimately together. So he's onboarded on that, and then since he knows that we were working together as a partner, so that brought a kind of confidence in him that okay, there is a trust. Otherwise, I have seen many times this problem comes that okay, they have their different world, we have our different world, and you are not part of that world, then they will not trust you.
Okay. So now coming to the most, so I would say the burning question for every parent is where, especially if they are at 10th, to choose what is something that they should do it in 11th, 12th. And in your case, for the kid, we have decided to sort of put more as engineering. Okay. Now for engineering, we know that it's a very competitive world from an IIT perspective and all. And which coaching out of sort of plethora of coachings that are there to choose, it's like a nightmare for parents. So how difficult it was for you as a family, where both of you are very educated, very informed, financially capable, kid is smart, sort of academically, sports and all. So for looking at a lot of positives, how difficult it was to choose an institute for him to prepare for, let's say, JEE? Okay, and what were the parameters that you look forward to? And is there an advice that you have for the parents to overcome this critical phase for their kids?
Yeah, definitely each institute has its pros and cons. So not a single institute is a perfect one. But for us, again, one of my friend told me that whenever you have such problems, write it down. What are the different areas which has an impact? So we just sat and we felt like what is it required, to select a best. What do we want from the institute? So one is definitely good teachers who have experience, who are able to create that success for other kids. So definitely named teachers. It's not that some institute says that they have a success in northern part and then they hire a new teachers here. That's different, correct? So if you know that okay, there is a known teacher, a set of teachers who have previously been successful with other kids, they know how to train. That is one parameter. Second parameter was that what is the course material that institute provides?
Okay.
What kind of curriculum, what kind of practice session they have? Do they have a doubt clearing? How easy is to approach as such? How real time situations they give? So like this, the institute which I have selected. What they do is before IIT examination, mainly the mains, they do a mock-up round of test which every week they do. But the fact is, they take kids in the last 2-3 months to a different location, 20-30 kilometers.
Okay.
Book a hall, and then the kid will go with a entry ticket and then
So it's like a sort of a simulation of the actual exam. Okay.
Yes. So that makes that tells about the institute how important for them. So material, real time experience, and then definitely peers. Peers is something which is not in our control. So then these are the two other areas which we sought for, and that's where wherever we felt like there is a more weightage, that's how we identified.
Okay.
I hope we are right in our selection. But yeah, that's how it is.
Oh, okay. It is good to sort of know some of the parameters that you have chosen in terms of deciding that. Now, since you came from a background at this moment where you have got financial stable background, okay, how much of that affects in terms of your planning, okay, and is there anything specific that you have done on the financial planning side to ensure that you don't have to take decisions based on that?
Yeah, so one thing, and this is something which came from the learning over the period of time, and that is something because we came from my background is that that time it was not enough money, so there was no cushion of saving specifically for that. But at some point of time, my father told me that whatever he could not do, and the moment my son was born, we started creating a separate public provident fund for him. So it is like he's 15 and I'm like saving in public provident fund from last 14 years. So that actually, I know it's not a substantial amount still, because with the cost of living or cost of education going higher, it's not substantial, but at least it gives me some level. So I think that is something good which has happened. At least somebody guided me that you have to park some money separately for him. So I don't know, with PPF, 7% return, but at least I have parked some money. So that is something which I felt is helping me from that perspective, because we do all put money in shares, mutual fund, but it's not focused, correct? And share market is something like you feel okay, I will sell it out or I will buy something. At times you do trading around it. So it is not something which is very focused, and you don't know how much you can park for him when actual requirement comes in, and this gives you a mental peace. Correct.
Okay, so it's interesting like how sort of starting small also gives that much confidence back to the parents to sort of take certain decisions. Okay, so we did talk about a lot about the elder son. So let's slightly shift gears for the younger daughter who is in 6th class as of now. How different it is, like now the eldest child is always the first for the family to sort of experience a lot of things for the first time. how much of that learning actually helped for the second kid? And do you think the second kid planning is significantly sort of influenced by the elder one?
I would say it is influence, but it is not easy. At times as a parent we feel that okay, we have now experience, we have handled one, so we should be. But coming to my both the kids, both are totally different individuals, different interest areas. So and the circle is different. So whatever experience we gain, we try to influence her with those experiences.
Okay.
And at some point of time, parents agree, don't agree, but we realize over a period of time that we at times compare our kids, and which is not good. Correct. So that is a learning, and whatever we have learned over a period of time with our kids, first kid may not necessarily will be helpful for the second kid. So that is where it becomes very important that you have to clean your slate. Definitely there are some good things which you have learned over a period of time, but you cannot take as it is. There is a lot of change which you have to do. Depends upon how is the interest area, how is this kid. So because we know every kid is different, and even in the same family, siblings are different. So I would say some help, but again, you have to unlearn and learn new things, because otherwise we start comparing, and which is a problem, and then it takes it into a different direction, and you have a bigger problem to handle.
So the difference between your both kids is like 4-5 years. How do you see the environment shifts in, let's say, a span of four? Because typically the gap between two kids are going to be anywhere between, let's say, 3 years to 6-7 years, depending upon parents' choice. How do you see that gap changes the playground itself in terms of the changes happening in the global world, changes happening in terms of the skills, needs, job market, and everything? Do you feel it has significantly changed, and your thought process is not from a kid perspective but from an environment perspective has to be completely been different?
Yes, and that is what worries me at times, because we know everything is changing in every 2 years. It's a very fast-paced changing world. So, in fact, and that was the reason for my elder one, I said you focus on now physics, chemistry, math, because that uh, will not change. The applicability will not change. It still will help you to solve the real-time problem, one or other way, rather than be very specific, like I will go to automobile industry or computer science. You never know, world is shifting. And coming to my younger one, again, she is in 6th grade. She is into a lot of craft, creativity stuff, drawing, academic wise also she is fine, but her more interest area is that, but I don't know where the world. So I would say, that is where, we have to keep a track of it, and with our daily routines, working 10 hours a day, it's not easy to track all those things. So definitely need of an external expert is something which I will seek for. The only thing I could do at this point of time is save some money for her, because whatever area, there will be some area and where we have to spend money. So I'll keep that fund separately for her, and then take the expert advice, because it's like a share market. There are people who are expert. They see the share market details in and out and all that. But we in our world will not do that, correct? Because we have other things to address as a primary responsibility. So we go to a mutual fund expert and then go for a for his help. Same way, I think we have to. I am seeking help from experts who are into the industry, who know how the trend is changing, and it's fast changing. So I cannot keep a track. So I will definitely, and that is what I am doing, taking the help of expert.
Okay. Okay. So you did mention about that she's interested in arts, crafts, and all. So let's say if she comes back to you and talks about that, Daddy, I want to basically pursue a career which is more towards arts and not STEM. How as a parent you will basically feel? Because in our times when we grown up, doctor, engineer, CA, these are the careers that were there, and anybody who couldn't do anything, with no disrespect to them, is where they will take arts and all. So do you see you as a parent have overcome that thought process, and if your kid comes and then asks for that, I want to pursue in this area, you will be okay with that?
Yes, but again, this was a lot of brainstorming which was involved. See, we have, as I said, those three boxes, correct? So again, the same box is applicable. But it is easier and said and done when it is like maths, biology areas, or a commerce where a chartered accountant area. Not as easy from an arts perspective. But then what we are seeing in the real world is, like this organization is firing 13,000 employees, that organization has challenges with 5,000 and all that. So no career is like bulletproof, correct? So and we are seeing people in art, craft, creative industry, they are doing really well. So where we don't know what is coming next, at least we should have um, at least we should have something which is of interest of kid, rather than we pushing, because at some point of time it was very clear, okay, engineering, you do engineering, you will have rest of your life at rest, but it is not necessary. The world is changing, the skill set is changing, and we are not able to, so rather to focus what is in control, and rather than focusing on what is not in control.
It is fascinating to see how our parents who are from the financial background are basically looking and being very open for the elder one to move towards the engineering side, and for the younger one to be open to sort of pick something in the arts, and they basically are open in terms of learning from the experts about how they can help the kids to achieve what the kid wants to achieve. So with that, probably I'll get to the last section, Arpit, and this is more like a rapid fire. In case if let's say if you need to pick one thing which you felt that you have done really good, which has helped you to plan your kids' education journey good, what will be that one takeaway for you which you felt you have done good?
So I think, as I mentioned, I was part of his journey in sports. Okay, so it is important to pursue something which your kid likes.
Okay.
So spend more time, be the partner to him. Then that builds the confidence, and that builds more conversation, and conversation helps. So that is something which I felt even for my daughter. I do sketching when she asks for whatever I do, but I spend time with her. That is what I'm trying to do, because that's a learning which I have, that it gave me some good result. At least my son comes to me with some problem rather than not coming to me. So I am hoping the same thing follows for my daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, and again it's a learning process.
Okay. And let's say a flip of that same question is, if you can go back in time and you could basically do something differently, I would not say correct the mistake part of that, because everything is sort of learning, but if you can do something differently, what it will be?
Um, Basically, if I think through the journey, I feel, as I mentioned, that I have started investing in PPF. For my daughter, I started investing in Sukanya Samriddhi. But somewhere, all these returns will not beat the inflation in the market. So at that point of time, if I would have started a investment, maybe in some specific funds, or a right financial planning from that perspective which beats the inflation, uh, the the uh, the corpus for specifically assigned to them will be much higher, much larger, correct? So I believe that parts, because your investment should beat inflation. So that is something I feel I should have done, but sooner rather than later. So I mean, we've started doing it from last couple of years, and this is again coming from the experts that who are helping us with this.
Okay.
So yeah.
And let's say it's because your younger daughter is in 6th class, and that's a very tender age in terms of thinking about a lot of these things. If you need to give one advice to the parents of similar age group kids, what will be that one advice to them?
So I would always say that be a learner rather than thinking about that I know the world, I am a father or I am a mother and I know everything, because we are also students. So treat yourself as a kid. And very important is that whatever you want to take out of your kid, try to become that. So when I want fitness for my kid, I spend time on my fitness. Correct. Same thing goes with other areas. If I'm saying don't do this or don't watch too much of a TV or a mobile, which I am still struggling with the mobile at least, but that is where the kids are very very keen observer. So I mean that's a simple formula, difficult to execute, but it's an attempt.
Oh, very interesting. And really, thank you, Arpit, for your time. And this discussion was very enriching for me in terms of hearing it directly from a parent's feedback perspective. And I thank you for all the candid, sort of personal things that you have shared for us to sort of get more insightful about that. So that's what we were having as part of this episode, a very enriching discussion with Arpit. And a big takeaway for all of us is that a lot of things that we have talked about today would be a common problem that each one of us might be facing as parents. And as we have seen, there is no right and wrong answer to that. It is just the choice that the parents take based on the exposure that they have, based on the support that they have, to sort of look at what is best that they can offer to the kid. So if you are sort of going through the same challenge, you are not alone in this journey. It is just that you need to see how you can get more informed, how you can learn from some of the other parents who have done similar journeys, and then see what is best for your kid. We'll continue to sort of have these discussions where we'll have more perspective, more real stories, and try to build from those real stories about how parents react to situation with limited resources. This is a perfect example what we see today, where the parents was having almost every resource at their disposal. They are well educated, both are chartered accountant, they are financially stable, they are informed, involved with the kids, have two kids who are good in sports as well as in academics. Still, they have gone through so many challenges in their life, and it was interesting to sort of listen how Arpit and his wife has sort of got through all of these things, and then look at from the knowledge that they have to see what is best that could be done. So looking forward to have more discussions from other parents as well and bring these real stories back to you so that we all can benefited and still go back to the main impact of these discussions about how we can help our kids to reach to their potential so they contribute to the fullest to the Viksit Bharat vision of our country. For more such videos, please do like, subscribe and share these videos. That will basically help us to have more perspective, and if you would like to be part of on our podcast, we would love to sort of have you share your stories, learn from you, and then sort of look at if we can share those journeys with the rest of the parents so that they get benefited out of that. Thank you.